This is Andrew Rochford, host of the Rochford Files on YouTube, with additional live streams on Twitch as well. And what I wanted to do for this segment was provide an update on the Nabisco strike. The workers have just come to a new agreement on their contract, and I'll give my thoughts on what they achieved in this new deal. So this tweet came from More Perfect Union over on Saturday. Breaking: after weeks of strikes and protest, Nabisco workers voted to ratify a new contract and end their strike. The new agreement includes $60 an hour wage increases each year for 4 years, a $5K bonus for all employees, and blocks Mondelez's planned healthcare cuts. The new agreement doesn't kill Mondelez's plan to implement 12-hour weekend shifts with no overtime. That system would mostly apply to new workers who take weekend crew roles. With votes in File 5 U.S. bakeries, support for the deal was overwhelming, we were told. So most of the essential information is going to come on this image right here, which I'm about to pull up for you. And you're going to see further exclamation. As I said, number one is the $5,000 ratification bonus, which will help cover part of their wages from the absence when they have the strike. Two is the wages, and their previous agreement, the wage was 2.25% increase, which, by the way, is already below the minimum of average inflation, which is roughly 3%. And then, as you see here, the next 3 years is 60 cents an hour. Then they got a new contract term back from March 1st to February 28, 2025. 401k increase from 25% match to 50% match. Option to not use vacation week for shutdown if employee only has one acute week of vacation. Short-term disability from 360 a week to 380 a week. Effective 30 days after the date of ratification, and increased to 410 a week effective March 1st, 2023. Grievance procedure as tentatively agreed on July 8th, 2021, with 30 calendar days except for Richmond. Continue to follow local rules in Richmond. Modify probationary period for new hires to 60 calendar days as proposed on July 21st. All right, so now that we've got the main gist of what they came to an agreement on, I will say that this was actually a better victory for the workers of Nabisco than what we saw with Frito-Lay. When their strike went down, all that they really did was guarantee that they don't have to work 7 days a week. And that was really all they got from this deal. So as for their new agreement of 60 cent an hour wage increases, that right there is actually, for as long as you're not making more than $20 an hour, you actually are meeting that 3%, just covering the basic inflation. Although I would personally wouldn't consider that quite good enough, as in my opinion, I think that a good raise is at least $1 a year. Then that 5K bonus will cover employees to varying degrees, depending on what type of cost they had to deal with in the time that they were striking. So for some employees, that may be more than good. For others, it may not quite be good enough. And they blocked the healthcare cuts, so I think that right there probably was the biggest case that helped the unions overwhelmingly vote in favor. But even though I think the 60-cent raise could have been better. Now, here's the problem. While for these current workers, they are protected from be working those weekend cruise shifts outside of it being voluntary. But the problem is this deal effectively creates a two-tiered worker system, because what they're going to do now is hire a weekend crew who can work 12-hour shifts without overtime pay. And what you'll see is they're probably going to have a much weaker benefits in comparison to the improvements that the current full-time staff workers just got. And I've seen this happen, plenty of examples on a smaller scale. Like, for example, you've seen many retailers flatten their pay scale, so to say. So a new worker, if you're a more experienced worker and you're not at the minimum wage, then you're making as much as a new worker. But on the surface level, it looks bad for the long-time worker, but there's also a mixed bag to it, in the aspect of the fact that these newer workers are going to have a significantly harder time building up time off compared to the worker who has been there quite a bit longer. So I will say that this was at least a slight positive victory for the Nabisco workers. And I do hope that when it comes time to renegotiate in 2025, that they'll make sure to try to help those weekend crew people get more on their level when it comes to future agreement, because those type of work environments can be two-tiered systems, are very, very tough for the employer to maintain, due to the fact that uh, those lower tiered workers know that uh, the higher tier is taken care of a lot better. But this is just the start of what could be done with unions, and that this is something to build upon, not something to uh, be overly frustrated about. We can assess the pros and cons, and future unions can try to work upon building towards greater and greater victories.